Election time. And that's what we're talking about today. We got two candidates, two policies, and it's all about housing. So, in order for this to be as diplomatic as possible, I am going to tell you right now, we're only discussing the housing policy of two candidates. And we're going to go over it. We're not taking it from any article because I don't want anybody's opinion from that article to be carried over into the conversation. I have the conversation with three other agents, real estate agents from around the country. So that way we can have this discussion very diplomatically. So I'm going to let you know right now in the chat, if you get into name calling, any kind of racist stuff, anything like that, you're out. I'm not dealing with it. I just want to have a real conversation on policy when it comes to housing. And that is my wheelhouse. That is what our experts' wheelhouse is. And that's the only thing we're going to be discussing. But I think it's important for all of us, since we are in an affordable housing crisis, to look at these policies by both candidates critically. So that way we can understand what is going on to whomever will be elected. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce my guests that we're going to have on today. First, we have Ray Ellen from Arkansas. We got, I try to get all four corners. No one could come in from California. Go ahead. Let's let Ray Ellen in. And then we've got Palm Beach Paul from Florida, sunny Florida. Yay! And then we have, oh, you got applause.
I know, look at that.
And then we have Jackie Baker. Yay!
Wow. Wow. Thanks, Kristina.
So I'm going to let everybody know that we did get some super chats that came in, and I will be reading those in just a minute. But first, I want to talk about the two policies that came from. One of them comes from the GOP, and it's the Make America Great plan. Eddie, if you could put that up, it is a PDF. It comes straight from the horse's mouth. There's no fluff and utter in it. It's just exactly what they say about the housing policy. And then we're going to go straight into what the Biden, or the not Biden, Harris camps has to say. Affordable housing. To help new home buyers, Republicans reduce mortgage rates by slashing inflation, open limit portions of federal lands to allow for new home construction, promote homeownership through tax incentives, and support first-time home buyers, and cut unnecessary regulations on raising housing costs. And then that's what they have for their policy. There wasn't much more to it. Okay, and now let's go ahead and pull up the Harris camp's policy on affordable housing, if you could there, Eduardo. Okay. Let's get straight to the okay. No. Housing. No. Okay. It's calling for the construction of 3 million new housing units to the end of the housing supply shortage in the next 4 years. There's a serious housing shortage in America. It's driving up prices. Vice President Harris will work in the partnership with the industry to build housing we need, both rent and to buy, to take down barriers that stand in the way of building a new housing, including the state and local levels. This will make rents and mortgages more cheaper. They propose to first time ever tax incentive for home builders who build starter homes sold to first time home buyers, elevating the shortage of houses on the market for aspiring homeowners. This will complement the neighborhood homes tax credit that encourages investment in homes that would be otherwise too costly or difficult to develop or rehab. Okay. They will also propose a new $40 billion innovation fund, doubling down on the $20 billion. I'm going to get that out. $20 billion Biden-Harris administration's proposed innovation fund that that proposed it will empower local governments to fund local solutions to build housing. It will also go further to support innovative methods of construction and financing and empower developers and home builders to design, build, and build housing solutions that are affordable with one condition. They must show they will deliver results. This fund will support expansion and innovation in local efforts like in Wayne County. I'm not going to get into the specifics of that. All right, let's scroll down a little bit more. It will cut red tape. These plans will build on the Biden-Harris efforts to cut red tape and enable home building to be bring down housing costs, which have advanced record levels of new construction. Pushing this forward also means streamlining the permitting process and reviews, including transordinate and conversion development, so builders can get homes on the market sooner and bring down costs. So one more thing, lowering rents. In addition, for the ongoing vice president is to expand rental assistance for hard-pressed Americans, including veterans, boosting housing supply without homes, enforce fair housing laws, and in making sure corporate landlords can't use taxpayer dollars to unfairly rip off renters. Today, she proposed those plans to stop Wall Street investors from buying up marked up bulk homes in bulk. Community after community feels like they're, I don't want to get into that. And then they're going to say, stop rent setting data firms from price fixing to raise rents by double digits. Vice President Harris is calling for Congress to pass the Preventative Algorithmic Facilitation of Rental Housing Cartels Act to crack down on companies that contribute to the surging rent prices. And then this was the big, wait, Eddie, go back. This was the big one. This is the one that everybody's talking about right after that. This was the $25,000. It's going to be providing historic $25,000 down payment support for first-time homeowners. Many Americans work hard for their jobs, but they can't save enough for paying for rent and other bills, and down payment denying them a shot at owning a home and building wealth. Let's see. The Biden-Harris administration initially proposed a $25,000 down payment assistance for only 400 of the 400,000 first-time generational home buyers or home buyers whose parents don't own a home, and a $10,000 tax credit for first-time home buyers. Vice President Harris's plan will simplify, significantly expanding that plan, providing an average of $25,000 for all eligible first-time home buyers, while ensuring full participation by generation and first-generation home buyers. It will expand the reach of down payment assistance, allowing for 4 million first-time home buyers over 4 years to get significant down payment assistance. Okay, now that was what everybody has been talking about, and so let's talk about these plans. So I know everybody is very cautious about having this conversation because of the fact that they are afraid of any kind of backlash. What I was saying to Jackie earlier, if you stand for nothing, then you're really, I mean, like, what are we doing? We're here to talk about housing.
Right.
And I think there's something to be said in both policies. And I think both of them are addressing the fact that they know that we don't have enough affordable housing. But are these plans good enough for the future of our generations of getting into their first home? I would like to hear your opinion, Ray Ellen, since you were the first one.
Well, I mean, both of them, I would say yes and no. It'll become pretty apparent through most of my answers that I'm like a Milton Friedman economist. Like that's kind of my style, and my bent is to let the free market operate as much as possible. So I like the idea of, having the ability for the free market to work, but I don't feel like either fully address the actual issue. And I know we're going to probably get into specifics as we go, but if you're calling for 3 million properties to be built, like what is that? I'm going to call for 10 million to be built. What is that?
Mhm.
That doesn't do anything. There's nothing there of substance. So, I can call for as many properties as I want to be built, but the reality is until land, labor, and materials are cheaper, builders don't want to rush to build a whole bunch of homes. And for that to be cheaper, there's other parts of each one of these candidates' platform that we have to look at. And that's when you start to look at the overall economic impact of their plan. So if more relief is on the materials, if you have more materials made here less expensively, or even just increasing the supply of many of the materials will drop the price, then you have builders that are more willing to build in price ranges where they're currently not building because they can't make money. If some federal lands become available to build that are currently being held for little to no reason, I mean, there's a lot of federal property that's just sitting there, and it's not like a wetland. It's just a lot in the middle of the city. So if properties like that become available, then yeah, I mean, that is increasing the supply of land, which that becomes a little bit less expensive. If materials become a little bit less expensive, then I think you're going to have a boost in building. I don't think that either one of them putting any kind of incentives or anything for buyers is helpful currently. The problem is we don't have enough demand we don't have enough supply to satisfy the demand.
For
So if you
affordable housing.
Correct, for affordable housing.
Mm-hmm.
So if you increase the demand for affordable housing and supply hasn't caught up with, like even if, let's say you called for 3 million in new homes to be built, and that was going to happen, it doesn't happen day one. It happens a year or 2 or 3. That takes a lot of time. Even just starting a home today, it takes a lot of time to finish. So if you increase the demand, then it's just going to increase the price for everyone. And not everyone will have access to the 25K. I'm sure there's going to be restrictions on it. Previously, as it said in our policy, they tried to do this for first generation home buyers. That didn't go through. I think that was what Biden was trying to do. That didn't happen. So now they're trying to do it for everyone. If that does happen, if it does go through, and you have first-time home buyers of a certain category, of a certain price range, it's going to be a lot more people out there than people that get the VA benefit, than people that get the current ADDI and ADFA down payment assistance programs. So you're going to have an increase in the number of people that can purchase by putting $25,000 down, but the price just doesn't go up for them. The price goes up for everyone in that price range. And so that's the problem, is you have a lot of people that are thinking now like, well, yeah, next year we'll finally get it. We'll have our down payment saved up. We can go. And they don't qualify for the 25K because they make a little bit too much money, or because it's not the right area, or whatever restrictions the government puts on it. But yet when they go to buy a home, the whole market will start to inflate itself.
Correct.
So I think that's a real issue. I mean, I love the idea of allowing buyers to buy more houses, but that only works if you have an abundance of supply. But you remember the Bush did a tax credit, $8,000 tax credit, and a lot of people jumped into the market. The reason why Bush did that is because we had entire neighborhoods that were sitting empty and no one was buying.
Right.
We don't have that today. It's a very different situation.
Well, the one thing I did, there was one thing that both of them could agree on both of those plans, which was cutting the red tape, working to cut a lot of the red tape. And if you read anything about affordable housing and building, the loophole, the ropes they have to jump over to get to the point where they're actually scraping to build a house, it gets to the point of ridiculous how many meetings they have to have and how many times they got to turn in the same paperwork 1,000 times. In some areas, like in California, so from the time of developing a piece of land to actually building a house can take as little as 10 years and up. So, I mean, if we're going to compare, at least both are addressing that. But I do agree with you. If you put more money into first-time home buyers' hands, even though it feels great that you have an extra $25,000. When you have a shortage of affordable homes that are available now, you're giving them more money to drive prices up even higher. I agree with you on that. Jackie, do you want to add anything to that?
I was just gonna thank you. I was just gonna say, I agree. I totally agree with what you both are saying. But to add to that, I think I just read an article about the National Association of Home Builders said I think it costs somewhere like 100,000 more to because of regulations. It's $100,000 more expensive to build a home because of just the regulations. And I know, Kristina, you and I have had that conversation before. I mean, the regulations are a huge problem, you know, and it's great that they have this land out there. But yeah, I appreciate that the both of them are they're recognizing that the regulations are a big issue. But also to talk about that $25,000 credit, I agree. I don't think it's going to do much at all because there's nothing to buy. You know, there's no homes out there. I mean, I just talked about this recently where there's a number, I forget how many cities in this country where starter homes are $1 million. And I have that here in New Jersey. You know, young millennials or younger, the millennial population are spending up to $1 million on a starter home. So, I mean, this is, we definitely need more, more supply for sure. I've always said, and Ray, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. I always felt that when the rates come back down to a more reasonable level, that would motivate sellers to want to sell their home because of the lock-in effect. And I just read an article yesterday, because I'm going to be talking about it on my live stream tomorrow night, about how they're predicting now with the rates come back down, they're anticipating that we are going to get more inventory. How much inventory? Is it going to meet the current demand? No, but I think it would help it. So I think, the interest rates definitely play a role in this too, to help balance that market. I mean, Ray, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think we will see an increase in supply, but we're also going to see more buyers jumping into the market.
Well, oh, absolutely,
So
yeah.
I think it's going to kind of balance itself. There is some thought that prices are going to go insane if we go to 5 or below 5%. I don't think the rates are going to hit that point, but there is some speculation that a ton of people would jump into the market for that rate.
I don't think it's going to drop. I think prices, I see what they're saying. The prices will go back up again. It's Christine. I'm sorry. I'm like going on a sidebar here, but I just wanted to add to this. What I'm seeing now, I'm working with a couple of buyers right now. I just had a listing. I was anticipating a ton of offers and I only got 3. And in my market, that's like unheard of. And that was just in the last week.
Is the home affordable though?
No, it's not. It was a more expensive home, but in my market, the more expensive homes are selling like, they're going through the roof. But the thing is, other homes listed at the same price this one was, we're getting like 14 to 20 offers. So just in the past week, my buyers are looking at homes where there would be like, hundreds of people looking at the house. The number of buyers have died down. They're not there. Like I said, the number of offers I got on this listing, I had 3. I don't know. I think things are shifting a little bit with the interest rates. But my point is, even if the rates come down, I think people are tired of these bidding wars and just throwing any amount of money to buy a house. And I think they're fed up. So I don't know if we're going to see much of that anymore, of the prices skyrocketing to what they were. I mean, here in New Jersey, we had price increases of like 16%. Since the pandemic. I mean, it's outrageous. But
the whole thing is we need more supply, and these
that absolutely.
And these policies say that they're going to address it, but if you live in an area that has limited land, how do they propose to do that? So they're going to put in more apartments? That's what happens a lot of times when they say, well, we've added more affordable housing in this area for affordable housing. Yeah. And so the incentive ends up being a bunch of apartments, and they're saying, well, now housing's down, but that doesn't help with the housing.
Right. Well, that's what we have in New Jersey. We had this law. It was called Mount Laurel, and they had to every town had to commit to a number of affordable units, and they're all condominiums. And like this year, we had this. We had to meet. I think my town, we had to meet like we needed like 200 affordable units for sale, and yeah, we are building more. I mean, they're
Yeah.
doing it, but you can't do a house. It has to
Yeah.
be, like you
It
said,
has to be
apartment or condos. Yeah.
Yep.
Yep. So,
Palm Beach Paul, you know all about condos in Florida.
Yeah.
They got really high there for a hot minute. That was the affordable housing solution in Florida, but that hasn't really panned out since all of this. But I want to go back to these policies that the two candidates have come out with. Do you think that anything in these two policies will help for affordable housing in your area of Florida?
Well, first, I can't remember the last time I've worked with a first-time home buyer because South Florida is so expensive, they just can't afford it. And there are some programs we have here, like the Homes for Heroes, which gives a certain up to like 5% with your down payment assistance. But I mean, what good is the assistance if you still can't afford the house, if the payments are just beyond your reach? I mean, I think the median price is last I did something like 600 something 70,000 for a single family home. It's really expensive down here. Talking about with Jackie talking about apartments, there's a ton of apartments going up down here, which, if that's what they're making, which a lot of people don't like, right? There's a bunch of rentals, but the same thing down here. You don't have affordable housing. I've been working with one first-time home buyer trying to find them a property, and they finally got frustrated and they said said we just can't, because for them, their price was like 350,000, but you literally can't find there's no single family homes that were without an HOA, adding that fee on top of it, that were in decent condition. The stuff we were looking at, there's like, it needs a ton of work. And then then if it needs a ton of work, they can't move into it, or it's not going to work for them. So South Florida definitely has its issues with affordability. As far as them talking about building more homes and even easing up on some of the federal land, where are we going to go, into the Everglades? I mean, we can't go east. I mean,
I agree with you.
There's really no land left in Palm Beach County to build, not much, and even worse for Broward and Dade County. So, matter of fact, one of the big home builders down here was doing something where they worked something out, and they were pushing on the edge of the Everglades, which they said they never would. And then I guess some handshaking, and they worked something out, said, we'll give this land back, we're going to build here. People were upset about it. So I don't know where they propose, at least in where I'm at, what land they would be willing to give up to allow buildings to take place.
That was my thought process too. But as I was looking into this more, there are areas even in cities that the federal government owns, but they're not big enough for whole neighborhoods. Very rarely, like in cities, they'll own plots and stuff. So then I started thinking about like some of the federal lands they own. Are they going to be giving up places that would be not necessarily eco-friendly? That wasn't necessarily the best idea. But both of them want to work on making more affordable housing, mostly for renters. But the $25,000 tax credit doesn't really help for building houses. So I have always maintained, even when this came out through Biden a while ago, is that I think they need to flip it. I think they need to, instead of giving the tax credit to the home buyer, give it to the home seller to encourage them to sell their house. Because a lot of boomers that have their original home, their smaller home, and then they own another house. If you gave them some incentive to sell their smaller house, let's just say if they sold their house, I'm coming off the, I'm just saying this. If they were to sell their house to a first-time home buyer, and it's under 2,000 square feet, they get a tax credit of $2,500, or whatever the amount is. So that way, it encourages them to add to the supply of more affordable housing, and then it wouldn't necessarily drive up the price so much. That's my proposal, but nobody asked me. I'm not running for anything. So, I mean, does that make sense to you, Ray? That like if you encourage the home seller instead of the home buyer, to
Yeah,
like so
I
we
love
have
that
more.
idea. If you sell and buy at the same time, there's, it's some kind of tax credit, tax benefit. I like the relief on the tax side because it does help the people that pay the taxes. There's people that run really big businesses that don't pay any taxes at all, so it's not going to help them very much. But somebody that is paying taxes, just has a regular 9-to-5 job and is trying to move, I think that would give them quite a bit of relief. So I love that idea.
The other thing too is that they were talking about my brain just went I hate when that happens. They were talking about having to add more rental units, and the cost of rent right now is still very high. It's coming down in some areas, but not necessarily affordable. Adding more rental units to the market does bring down rental prices. But they're also saying, well, we're not going to allow for more corporate investors who owns apartment buildings.
BlackRocks and
Right.
Can I expose a little bit of this? This is a false
Yes,
flag.
please do.
So
Yes.
there's been a lot of talk about investors in the marketplace, and we're all against, large hedge funds buying entire neighborhoods and then turning them into rentals and taking those properties off the market so buyers can. And there was this TikTok, I think late last year, that came out, said 40% of homes are being bought by these institutional investors, and it's just a complete lie. The real numbers are
no. I'm going to argue with you because there
not.
are some areas.
2%. 2% is the number.
I know, but that's average, right? But they do buy pockets of areas.
Of course they do.
Yeah, they do.
They also
and
build.
Then they dictate
They also
the
build
price
to rent
of that market. They
But-
dictate the price of the market in that pocket.
That's
so
fine.
how is that fair?
Because you
It's
could buy a
not a
different
fair
pocket.
market.
You can move.
If someone lives in that area and then that let's just say your freaking neighborhood, somebody moves into that neighborhood, right? You move in there, you love it, right? Now a hedge fund has come in and bought 40% of the homes, and you go vote on your HOA. Well, they got the majority of the vote, and now you have to pay for a swimming pool, and your HOA dues come up because you allowed the hedge fund to come in and dictate your HOA and what's going to be done in there. They dictate the market. If they own the majority of it, that's not a fair market because
2%.
they have more in as a whole, not in one
Yeah.
little area.
That's the point, though. The TikTok said it's 40% of the whole, and that's not true. It's 2%.
Of the
I think it's a false flag.
entire housing market. If you live in it, if you would feel that differently, if it was in your neighborhood and it was this, if you don't think it's a problem for the whole United States, I get it. But you would feel differently if it was your neighborhood, and how that hedge fund had bought up your neighborhood.
I don't think this is the
people
major
need to be
issue, though.
aware. People
not-
need to be aware. Okay.
They're
disagree.
going build to suit more often than they are buying specific neighborhoods or old homes and renovating. They're not doing that. They're doing build to suit. That is a gigantic mug every time. They're doing build
big
to
mugs.
They're doing build to suit. So they're hiring a builder. The builder is building the properties for them. That is the most of what hedge funds are doing. Or they go into homes where these big corporate builders have built and they can't sell them, and they're starting to buy those up. There's other issues there at play, but 2% is the number of homes that are available that those investors are buying. Investors have completely pulled back from what they were purchasing in 2020 through 2022. They got up as high as 22% overall purchases, closings being made on homes. But those are investors. Those are mom and pop investors. Those are people that own 1 or 2 properties. The institutional investors were still a very, very small portion of that. Now, you do have a problem where you have the collusion happening. But from what I can tell, a lot of the collusion, and this is a huge question I have. So whenever we sell a house as real estate agents, we go out and we do a comparative market analysis. We see what other homes are selling for, and then we market the property based on the sold price of those homes. Well, there was software that was created that was looking at what properties were renting for, and then we're setting comps based on the rentals, right?
I know the answer to this because I heard you on your
Yeah.
show. So I heard you on your show say, how is that any different from
How is it?
using?
Yeah, I want to know.
Because in order to be a part of their system, you had to agree on the pricing they told you to make those apartments.
Oh, yeah, that's the next step. That's the step that makes it illegal.
That made the step that it is illegal.
Yeah.
That was
Yeah.
what they did wrong. Because I was like, well, that doesn't make sense. So
Yeah.
I went back and I looked. They all had to collude together to agree to keep all the houses in the area or apartments at like $2,500. None of them could change their price to be a part of their program.
Yeah, okay. That makes sense then. All right. Well, the other issue with this, so I don't have a huge issue with hedge funds purchasing homes because I actually think it helps builders decrease their cost and all that kind of stuff. I like having a buyer like that in the market because they can buy stuff that other people can't.
I think there should be limitations.
I don't have a problem with the short-term rental market. There's a lot of people saying, oh, it's the short-term rental market. That's it. Of all the households in the U.S., only 2% are available for short-term rentals. And most of those are not in the bottom 1/3 of the market. So
I never believed
there's
that.
not going to be any relief from there. I think the biggest relief is going to come for like you said, for the seller. And if you're not focused on a home seller, then I think every other thing that you can put in place is nearly folly. I mean, I don't think it's going to work. So I just don't think institutional investors are a big issue because they've already pulled back huge on what they were buying because the prices they're going to ebb and flow into the market.
Bunch.
Yeah, like but what are they going to do?
Pockets of Milwaukee. They own pockets of Atlanta.
They're not going to hold them forever.
Yeah, Clark the realtor would tell you. He's on here. He'll tell you how much they bought up in the land. So
they're going to dump a bunch of properties at one time. Now they dictated a market crash in that area. That's
well,
good.
They're not going to. Why would they do that? They're owning the properties, so they're going to resell those properties for profit.
What I'm saying is they can do whatever they want is because they dictate it. If they want to just decide to piss off one day, they can do it. That's what I'm just saying. Like,
but they wouldn't. So the beauty of the capitalist market.
You say they wouldn't, but
no. The
people
beauty
do
of the
all
capitalist
sorts of
market
where
is
they
that
said they wouldn't do it.
the beauty of the capitalist market is that everyone acts in their own best interest, and when I am acting in my own best interest, it is not in my best interest to do things like crash the market if I hold real estate. That's not acting in my best interest. So the cool part about capitalism is that it actually responds to things like, well, that's going to hurt a consumer, or that's going to hurt something over here, and then other markets open or other opportunities open. So I like the free market, and if a hedge fund wants to buy a bunch of houses, I would say buy a bunch of houses.
I don't buy that. I don't like that.
I'm not a fan of that.
I don't like that they I don't like that they own big pockets of certain areas of Milwaukee and have dictated the market there. I don't like that they own big pockets in Atlanta and they can dictate the market there because it's not fair to the people that have lived there forever, that these people have now adjusted the market for what they wanted to. The people that have lived there forever now, all of a sudden rents around the area that were used to be $1,500 are now $3,500 because a group of investors decided to make it that much.
If people can't pay that, what are they going to do?
They're not there anymore. They're not there anymore. Only rich people are there anymore. So the people that used to live there and were living a very good life and had a good job now have to drive 3 hours to get to their job because of the hedge funds.
But
I'm not buying it.
What happened to that neighborhood before the poor people lived there?
They were renting.
No, it used to be a rich neighborhood many, many years ago. That was the top of the market. That was all the people could afford. They built these beautiful little tiny homes in 1920s because that's what the rich people could build. And the rich people lived in that area. And then slowly that area began to dilapidate. Now it's being built back up. It's becoming rich again. What's going to happen in the future? Yeah, and it's going to reverse again in the future.
Okay.
It's just the ebb and flow of people. It's how people move around. People will move to a cheaper place. They'll come to Arkansas because we're like number 1 on the standard of living. They'll move out of Atlanta.
This is why I wanted you here because I knew we would never agree. I knew we wouldn't because I see it from a completely different level than you do. And but we're still friends after everything's said. That's the best part because I can call them on the phone and I'd be like, I know we're not going to get along, but we're going to have this conversation. That's the greatest part of it. You know what? We did get 2 super chats that came in. So let's look at those super chats that came in because it's important to be, people invested their money that they should get their voices heard. Let's hear what they have to say. Hopefully they're not too far up and Eddie can't pull them up. Here we go. Long story short says, mass migration. Thank you. Long story short, said mass immigration, legal and illegal, is the problem. UK has the same problem. Japan has limited immigration and prices are low. Gimmicks won't work. Well, I don't know if anybody is aware of how Japan's housing works, but it's 1000% different than here in the United States. Houses do not stay forever. After a certain period of time, they're scraped down to the bottom and they're rebuilt into something else afterwards. They don't keep houses for 100 years. They're always built.
Huh.
Not even historic.
Nope.
That's
Done.
crazy. I never knew that.
Wow.
Yeah, like it's residential housing is like that,
That's
but
crazy.
not. But
Yeah, that's
Everyone has a nice new house to some extent.
well, you got to remember they have seismic problems and everything, so you can't keep your 100-year-old house because it's not meeting up to building codes. And if they have a seismic event, your 100-year-old or 200 or 300-year-old house is going to fall to the ground.
yeah.
Now, historic buildings, of
see if-
course, are going to
Let's see
stay.
if they go to California and say we're going to level all these homes that don't meet seismic events. There's literally thousands of homes in California that probably don't meet the standards, but they just had a 4.5 last week.
Mm-hmm.
But then how many homes are hurricane ready where I live? So
I agree.
by the way, when we talk about rents, I was looking up some numbers. Rents are down like 8.8%. Florida has the most decreasing price in rents. And I don't do a lot with rentals anymore. I used to, but
Was that an increase in supply?
There's like I said, well, they're building a ton. So maybe that's why there's a ton of, I mean, there's so many buildings going up. And I was like, oh, new condos, no rentals. Even just around my house where we're at, there are 3 or 4 projects going up. And then in downtown West Palm Beach, lots and lots of rentals going up. You keep thinking it's going to be condos, but they're all rentals.
Yeah, same here in Jersey too. A lot of rentals are
But they're not that affordable.
Same here. They're not either. They're luxury rentals.
Yeah, the rates are going down. But when I look at some of these rentals, 2-bedroom, 2-bath, I mean, it's on the waterfront. I did a video about this one place, but the 2-bedroom, 2-baths are like $7,200 a month. That's
oh my god!
Prices are dropping on those, by the way.
Yeah,
The market's already starting to correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
The back in the day, Ray and I talked on the phone for a little bit ahead of time, and we were talking about tax credit housing. And he's like, I've never seen a housing project that looked good. Right. So I lived in Florida 1,000 years ago with my husband. When we first got married, we were broke as a joke. And we lived in tax credit apartments, Castlewood Apartments in Castleberry, Florida. That's where we lived.
Would that be like Section 8?
It was not Section 8. So what they do is the rents are lower than the average area, but you had to meet income levels.
Okay.
They were just regular apartments. There was nothing wrong with.
So that's like what they're calling workforce housing here.
I didn't know it was called that, but back then it was called tax credit housing. So you had to meet the tax credit in order to be allowed into the apartment complex, and it was just a regular complex. There was a little bit of everything. It wasn't, people say, oh, it's a ghetto or whatever. I'm like, no, it wasn't. It was just regular housing. To this day, those apartments are still there. By the way, I don't know if it's still tax credit housing, but it was, and it did help me get a start in renting our first lives together. And I think there is success in seeing something like that as far as bringing down the housing costs for rentals. You can do a successful apartment complex. I mean, it didn't have much amenities. It was like a volleyball court, and I think that was it. Volleyball. Oh, and a little play center in the center. But that was fine. There's nothing wrong with that kind of housing, and nobody would have known it by driving by it. And I think that there is a place for that, for affordable housing, if they were willing to do it. But filling up the market with just rentals, but they're luxury apartments, isn't really helping the affordability issue.
Well, it's not. And a lot of those builders are being, from what I understand, when I saw some of the new ones going up, they are required to do so many units for workforce housing. So, which I think they're trying to do it more for the teachers, the fire, the police officers that might be working, and allow them to live in these downtown, nice apartment buildings that are going up right near the waterfronts and all that. So I don't know what the percentage was, but there are quite a few of them that these big developers, if they get these projects, they're told, well, that's great, but you will have to make some of these, workforce housing.
Eddie, I love him. He says researchers have found that institutional investors may have contributed to the increase in home prices and rents following the financial crisis. However, it is unclear how investors affect home ownership opportunities or tenants because many related factors affect a home ownership, i.e., market conditions, demographics, factors, and lending conditions. Yes, that is correct. Yep. There's no name on it. Like, oh, and then somebody put in the chat, I just saw it on the right-hand side here, that so you're in order to be accepted in tax credit, you have to have your income looked at. There is income limits. And I'm telling you, Eddie and I were broke. We were broke. All right, we got another one. Salafarius? How do you say this, Ray? You're better at this. The Salafaros? Salafarosis?
Or
I'm not. All right,
yes,
we're not.
Salifros.
Oh, well, good. It isn't just my dyslexic, but I can't read it. Or we all had a shot at it. We tried.
Proliferous Studios.
That sounds the best. Thank you, Paul Lykins. Japan also has about 50% inheritance tax, earthquakes, so housing isn't an investment. Their zoning laws are loose. Don't listen to. Oh, all right, we'll leave it at that. Yeah, so it's different. It is different in Japan. That's like comparing apples to oranges, and north of us.
Wait, hang on. What's the reasoning? Housing isn't an investment. So housing isn't an investment in Japan.
Yes, Japan.
So what's that have to do with?
Because of the comment that he made earlier, in Japan, he was saying that we should look at housing like they do in Japan. He was he said they have it solved because of the
who's the racist?
Immigration. Because he was saying it was an immigration problem, and the reason why Japan doesn't have that problem is because they don't have the immigration problems.
They don't allow you to. I don't think any of us said to halt it. So on the immigration issue, I mean, they're not I don't have a lot of illegal immigrants calling me to buy homes. I don't think that's a huge.
I live in Louisiana, and it's not a thing.
Yeah.
Well, I will say I have sold homes to people that I know that are not citizens of the United States, but they're also taxpayers.
Yeah.
Because
they're using
their EIN number, which is they own a business.
Well, you can buy property as a foreigner here. In a lot of countries, you can't. You can't purchase property as a foreigner. So you can come over and buy property and get a job and start going through the legal immigration. My nephew by marriage is a legal immigrant and went through the whole rigmarole. It took forever. And so I think that's fine. I don't think there's a problem with that. The increase in the number of people that are looking for rentals is a bit of an issue. And then the government giving them money to purchase the rentals then continues to inflate the price of rentals in those areas where they are. So that would be part of the issue. But I don't think it really has a major impact. I think it may have an impact on like multifamily units, the hotels that apparently some have taken over. I don't see it impacting like a neighborhood of first-time home buyers here. So I don't think that's part of I think that is an issue, but I don't think that's an issue that has to do with anything with housing.
Oh, I want to put this up real quick. It says EIN numbers are legal to use for any type of U.S. real estate mortgage. The people that I was talking about were buying it cash. They weren't using a mortgage. Lawnmower says, question, how is it price fixing since they're not actually in competition with one another? Well, they are. What they're saying is that this neighborhood over here used to be $800 a month. This neighborhood over here used to be $1,200 a month. And then the company that's helping them promote their apartment complex is saying, in order for everybody to be on the same page, the real page, we want everybody to be at $1,500 a month. And in order to be a part of our program and continue to be on our program, you have to make it at $1,500 a month. And the people that are part of this were like, if you can get us, if you think this will work, I don't think it will work. Well, it worked because everyone in the area was $1,500 a month. So people had to say, well, I'll just stop eating groceries this week or this month, or cut down so I can afford a place where I work to live in order to rent in the area. And they did it. But, capitalism, that's not what you said. You said, this is fine. you
What do
you
they,
think
what,
corporate
what do they call
investors
this?
is totally fine.
I like capitalism.
But it wasn't about capitalism. It was about price fixing and monopolizing. They were
so that's
monopolizing.
different. There are levers in place already to prevent the price fixing and monopolization. As you can see, those levers are being pulled. But collusion is not necessarily the best thing. But that's capitalism doesn't allow that. That's more of a fascist situation.
Right, but it's happening, and it took a
why
while for them to get caught.
Of course, I mean that's what courts are for.
Yeah, we'll see what happens though, because the mighty dollar is what pays off the people who get in trouble.
The rental housing cartels, huh?
That's pretty funny.
That's what happened. That's pretty much what happened. It was a cartel of all of them got together and said, okay, we'll go ahead and make it all $1,500 in the area. Jeffrey says it sounds great, but pumping more money into a form of credits, we are finding where are we finding this money for? Yeah. Where are we finding this money for this?
The money tree?
Well, Congress is the one that determines money being spent, correct? In the Senate, the one that can, pass policies and all that kind of stuff. But Congress is the purse. Is that, or I may have that backwards.
Congress is both of them together. We got the House and the Senate. Congress is together.
House of Representatives. I think they're the purse. But anyway, that they would have to pass. There can't just be something where a president says, "Oh, I'm going to give $40 billion to this thing." Ta-da! There has to be a laws passed, and you have to get bipartisan agreement for a lot of that. So I think there's still, just because they say it and then get elected, it's a long, long way away from happening.
It's just words on a paper.
Right.
That's right.
One of my
kind
questions,
of like overpricing a house. I want $1 million for it. Oh, you can ask for anything you want. Whether you get that or not, it's another story.
Right. In that same section where it talked about that $40 billion for innovation, it also talked about, I guess they do talk about cutting red tape, but the $40 for innovation will be given to those who can actually do it. And they said there would be some type of monitoring, which tells me there's probably an increase in regulation for that specific $40 billion. But there's also been a $20 billion that have already been spent for all of it. So my question is, what happened with the 20? Like, can we get a check-in on that? Yeah.
I actually have the answer to this. So they gave money to areas to help rezone them for either multifamily, taking some of them out of like financial districts. It went to the states for them to allocate it for more affordable housing. The other thing is that they've worked with manufactured housing companies to help them get in line with some of the regulations, and that they've been working with manufactured housing developers as well. So yeah, it went to any city that wanted to sign up for that money to allocate for rezoning and innovation and development of that area, any city around the country.
Interesting. That seems expensive for that fix.
Yeah.
How is that innovative?
I'm going to bite my tongue because I could say something.
How is that innovative? I don't understand how that increases innovation. I would love for them to actually say specifically, hey, we are going to back mortgages that allow homes to be built with alternative materials. So you don't just have to have a wood framed house like 70% of homes built in the US. You could have a metal framed house. You could have a concrete framed house. You could have, give me some alternative building materials, because then that I think would start to lower the price. They have these amazing like build blocks in other countries where like G Block. I think I've sent this to you before, where they can assemble a home in like a day. And it's so fast. It's very efficient. It's energy efficient, but maybe there's a builder cartel out there that's saying no to it, but
Turk
that kind of
Eclipse
thing I
said,
think would really help.
Turk Eclipse said, I had a mortgage credit certificate for my first home that helped me. It's a program that credits you a percentage of interest you pay each year. Is that still around? Not that I'm aware of.
I never heard of that.
There was every year my accountant asked for me for the are they talking about the interest deduction? It's not it's a
special credit that would help.
Yeah,
okay.
It was like, well, you know who we need to ask for this is Kyle Seagraves. We'll have him on next Sunday. Next Sunday, Kyle Seagraves will be on here, but talking about mortgages and mortgage credits.
I know there's still a deduction where you don't pay taxes on your primary home's interest, because my accountant always asks me for that every year.
Right.
It's been reduced significantly, may I add.
Yeah.
You don't get near as much as you used to on that.
Interesting.
Reducing the immortalized scheduled would help everyone. The government doesn't pay for that or get money that way anyway.
Reducing the amortization schedule? What do you mean reducing?
How do you
Your
reduce
amortization
that?
schedule is how much you have agreed to pay the loan over the term. I think some people don't understand how the interest works, because like you pay all the interest up front, and then slowly over time it goes down, right? Whatever. Okay.
So I guess he's saying more balanced.
Just do the math different.
Yeah, do the math different, where you're paying
more principal up front.
Right. Then the bank wouldn't make money. The banks won't allow for that. Like they want you to hold on to that investment. They're over time, they want to make all their money up front.
Yeah.
Because they're holding the liability of the house. So they want to make as much money up front as they can. That's it's the privilege of being able to get a mortgage. They're taking on the risk. So they have to put all of their upfront cost up front, right? Is that right? Am I saying that correctly?
You're not lending that money for free? Come on.
Yeah.
An American.
Yeah. Well, I mean, at least we're not like, I was just going to say earlier, at least we're not like Canada that says you have to, refinance that every 5 years or something like that, or 10 years, or I forgot what it is.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you're right about that. I heard that recently. Isn't that crazy? Do you have to do that?
We have to do that every year. But
insane.
Thank God neither one of their policies addressed having to refinance every 5 years.
Thank God for that.
Can you imagine people would lose their tops?
Oh my gosh.
Mm-hmm.
Forget it.
Jeffrey says, what guarantees will we have that the government will keep track of the money spent on the program and the legitimacy of taxpayers' money being used without fraud and malicious intent? Okay, let's be honest. There are scammers throughout the whole entire world. There's no guarantee that not every single dollar might land in somebody's hand nefariously.
I would say zero guarantee.
There's a 0 chance that would happen.
It is
but
going to happen.
It's always like they get away with it at first, but at some point, someday, it all comes crashing down. I had somebody during the last housing crash that got a house with the first-time home buyers thing, and they were dishonest, and so they had to pay that money back. They were required to pay that money back.
Wow.
It was part of their
cookie jar.
It was a part of their tax bill, so they had to pay it back.
Interesting. I just don't like. I don't like all the funding money to friends that have this 501c3 that's supposed to help people, and in reality, 10% of the money goes to where it's supposed to, and 90% gets eaten up with administrative cost. That's the stuff I think could really tamp down on. I think it'd be better if the government's going to give out money. At least
you mean like the lottery? How it's supposed to?
There's a lot of light
supposed to
that we can.
Our roads would be paved with gold in Florida if that was.
Yeah.
if anybody has any questions, feel free to put them in the chat. Eddie will put them up on the screen. Dizzy Lizzie says, question, what about manufactured homes? Couldn't neighborhoods of manufactured homes be built everywhere, especially? Yes. Okay, so we're going to go back to this past administration. The Biden administration had has in their Affordability Act, they were wanting to pump more money to help manufacturers build more houses more quickly in neighborhoods. And part of that package was allowing for neighborhoods to put manufactured homes in. A lot of areas were not willing to put those type of houses in neighborhoods. So they came up with, the manufactured home industry came up with a solution to the problem, because what happens is with manufactured homes, I was talking to Ray about this, with manufactured homes, they're put on a chassis. So you see that bottom part of the manufactured home. In order to fit the aesthetic of a traditional neighborhood, they said, we can remove the chassis at the bottom and we'll call this a cross mod. The meaning of that word cross mod does not mean cross modular, being built to modular specification. It means cross modern. So people are confused on the product that's being pushed out. It's a HUD manufactured home. It's not a modular home. It's a cross mod, means cross modern, not modular. I just want everybody to wear that.
That's an interesting name for it.
It's deceptive as far as I'm concerned.
It is. Yeah.
It's very deceptive. I've done a few videos on it, believe it or not.
Have you?
Yes. Yeah. You might.
Sounds like a new car, new type of car.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, they're just changing the name to make it sound sexier, you know, and it's just because people have a stigma in their mind of what manufactured housing is. And they get the words manufactured housing, HUD standard, and modular totally confused because they're two different products. So in order for them to even add to more confusion, let's go ahead and call it a cross mod, and it doesn't have a chassis on the bottom, and they think they're getting a modular home, which they're not. They're getting a manufactured home. May I say there's nothing wrong with manufactured housing. It's just that if the public believes they're getting a traditionally built modular home and they're not, then that's where the problem is. That's where it becomes deceptive. Question, should I wait until next year to see if VP Harris Biden administration does something about housing before trying to look for a home with NACA? I was approved last week to look for a home. Interest rates are always historically low during a presidential year. One of the I would say contact your financial advisor and your loan officer to talk about what you can do with your benefits. And I would, as September rolls around, you're going to probably see interest rates from the experts. I'm not saying I'm the experts, but go look up any article. They're saying that interest rates for mortgages most likely will come down even more. So I think that's the prime opportunity for you to be looking for a home. But don't take my advice. Go talk to your loan officer. I'm just a girl on the internet. That's it. Don't listen to them. I don't have your financials in front of me.
Kristina Smallhorn told me.
Yeah, no. I don't know your financial position. So, and it's Harris Walsh. I just found out how to say that dude's last name. I thought it was Waltz.
I did too. It's wall. Yeah, I was saying
like
wall.
walls, like balls to the walls.
Walls. Yeah.
Walls. I didn't know that.
Can I make a comment on that one? Because I don't think you should wait. I mean, I'm not a financial advisor, but if you were to wait, let's say you waited. Now there's an increase of buyers in the marketplace with $25K to spend. You don't know if you qualify for that $25K yet. You don't know if the property you want to buy will qualify for that $25K yet. So I think you could be negatively impacted by the number of buyers that are entering the market as prices overall increase in the bottom 1/3. I think if you are a first-time home buyer looking in that price range and you've already been approved with NACA or getting close to it, go ahead and do it. That's my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
I would actually try to beat it. If you think Harris is going to win, I would try to beat the 25K credit or the 25K down, especially if you already have down payment assistance coming.
And he's got another question to throw up on the screen. Okay, I know that you're going to have to jet in a minute, don't you, Ray?
Well, I just sent you a private chat. I'm good right now.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Somebody said that manufactured. I'm going to put this one on the screen. It says manufactured homes are depreciating value, not like modular or stick-built homes that appreciate. I'm going to just say this. With manufactured housing, not all manufactured homes are a depreciating asset. Would you make more income or would you have more value from a house, a traditional built house or a modular house? Yes, but not all manufactured housing is a depreciating asset. I've seen plenty, especially even over the pandemic, people made a mint from their manufactured homes. Would they have made more if they lived in a traditional house? Probably. But that doesn't mean that every single manufactured home you look at is going to tank in the value over time. Just like any piece of real estate, it has to do with the location in the market in that area. If it's in a crappy location, doesn't matter if it's a house, modular home, or manufactured homes, you're gonna lose money. But if it's in a good location and it's in a hot market, you're gonna sell it and you're gonna get it at an appreciating amount of money over a period of time. Just, I wanted to throw that out there. A lot of people think that. Dizzy Lizzie says, couldn't an entire neighborhood, Eddie, we already answered this. Oh, wait, couldn't entire neighborhoods be built manufactured homes for the first time home buyers at affordable costs? No investors allowed? Yes. Yes, they could. Of course they could. What happens with manufactured housing, though, is a lot of times they're not set up like traditional neighborhoods. So, you have one right on top of the other. There's no like yard. They don't really look, they're like sandwiched in like a file cabinet, right? So I'm not even trying to be funny because they're all built in that shotgun type style. So they have a little area. There's no yard. It doesn't feel like a homey home when you look at some of these manufactured home parks where people are not just renting, they actually own it, but it's in a park. Now, I've seen in Florida, you probably could attest to this, some of the manufactured home parks that the people own it or even they rent it, they look like neighborhoods. Those people keep them up. They keep them up really well. But investors
video on one that's right by the ocean, which is crazy. That's, a block from the beach.
Yep.
So
it's been there since
like the 1940s, which is amazing.
That is awesome. And they always look great. There's several in California too. And do you know why investors love manufactured home parks so much? Do you know, Ray?
It's land value.
I don't
Zero regulation.
Oh,
zero.
Yeah.
Oh.
Zero.
Yeah.
They can jack up those rents as high as they want to. They can toss people out
as high as the market will bear. They can't jack them up as high as they want to, or people will not live there.
And half the time, a lot of times, that's the point. You know why? Because they want to get them out so they can put in housing, like more housing. So they want to they purposely raise it so they're forced out so they can put that triple decker apartment building or condos or whatever. They make more money off of it. Luxury about housing,
Yeah. If that's the value of the park, though, is land value, then there's probably other issues with that park.
Yeah, this particular place was they tried to buy it out back in I think 2005, 7, and then the negotiations fell apart, and people are happy they didn't sell it because it's such a unique place. But each owner was looking at walking away with $1 million. But then again, they're like, okay, where can you go buy and live where they live? Literally a block or less for many of them from the ocean, and it's a beautiful ocean, and it's sandwiched in between. Part of here, South Florida area, where it's sandwiched in between, are all multi-million-dollar mansions. $35 million mansions. So it's funny, you have these modular homes right here, and then these $3 million townhomes right across the street. So it's very unique. Florida's a weird place for real estate.
It's kind of like Colorado. We have multi-million-dollar beautiful cabin, and then right next to it is a multi-million-dollar trailer at the bottom of a ski hill.
Yeah.
We have that here in Louisiana. You have a beautiful farm, palatial estate right next to a farm, right next to a manufactured home, right next to a house that was built in the 20s. I mean, we're all over the place. Rural America, I love it. MH08 says, how many home buyer assistance programs are out there and just forgotten about? Every state has their own.
Yep,
Has
That's
their
what I was
own.
gonna say.
they do.
Banks will also have them independently sometimes.
There's a lot.
Yes.
Yeah, every state has it. So I didn't realize how many Florida had until I was talking to a mortgage lender. I was like, I didn't even realize some of them. I was like, wow. And then even different municipalities will have certain programs for the, down here. I think they call it the SHIP program. So it's a certain program. You got to meet the qualifications for it, but they help with home buying. So you really just have to look at the local level. Start there first and see what's available in your community.
Rural development.
Sorry.
Rural development, 0 down.
I don't think there's much rural development in Palm Beach.
Probably not. You got to move out. See, that's what I'm saying. You got to move out. You take that $1 million, and you move out a little bit. No,
maybe in Central Florida or somewhere up there, northern. But yeah,
one of my friends, I said, I'm not really for this 25K thing. They were asking me what I think about it, and they were like, "You're not for the 25K? Wouldn't that mean more people buy? Aren't you a realtor?" I'm like, no, that's not necessarily. And he was like, "Well, what about all these other programs that we're talking about now?" He said, "Those are out there." And I said, "Yes. But now if you add another 25K program to that, everyone that currently is accepted from the VA that has 0 down, from rural development, which is 0 down, from NACA, from ADDI, ADFA, all those other programs, suddenly the value of them having gone through that whole program and process is now diminished because they have other competition entering the market for the 25K. And so I don't like it for a lot of reasons, but one of the reasons is now everyone that does have assistance or already qualifies for the assistance is in competition with a massive group of people. So it diminishes the value of that assistance.
We get bond money here. That's one of those things. And then they have different first-time home buyer, teachers, police officers, fire departments, that those go in and out of rotation for a period of time. There's always different first-time home buyers. It can change from, we have parishes here, counties in other areas as well. You could have a first-time home buyers assistance in one county, but it won't be in the next, or that one parish and won't be in the next. That is very dependent on, very area specific when it comes to first time. There's probably thousands of different types. And like you said, it depends. Sometimes it's even like Bank of America had a first-time home buyer program, but that wouldn't be the same thing as Wells Fargo's first-time home buyer program. And those, like a lot of those national companies don't know about the first-time home buyer program in your specific county. They have no idea. So it's always just good to shop around. If you're looking for a loan, at least minimum talk to 3 different lenders. Jeffrey said, how can a government over 36 trillion in debt offer tax credits, taxpayer funded, without going in further into debt? A balanced budget every 2 weeks without adding more debt is worrisome.
Well, isn't a tax credit money back from what you were having to pay? So it's funded by the taxpayer who would be paying it, but is now not paying it because they received the credit.
Right. Because what he's saying is now that they're paying less in. So now that's adding to the deficit because there isn't as much tax money coming into the pool.
So if, for instance, I got a tax credit next year, then I would probably expand my business. So if I'm expanding my business now, I'm hiring more people. If I'm hiring more people, I hire more people that then pay in taxes. So that's how it fixes it, is that you have more people paying taxes overall because of the economic expansion. The trouble with a tax credit during inflationary times is that it often allows more people to order more stuff. And if you order more stuff and people are still short because they're not making enough stuff, then you have inflation. So that is a problem with tax credits when you're in an inflationary time period. But it doesn't really have anything to do with the debt, in my opinion.
Y'all two are quiet down there, man. Me and Ray are about like we're tussling. We're
I'm enjoying this.
Ray's ready to throw. Me and Ray are throwing down.
I know. This is fun.
I'm learning. I'm just listening to stuff.
And I'm learning a lot too. Absolutely. Right.
It's like-
Right. Paul, this is good stuff.
Yeah. It's talking about trickle down economics and
I know.
Right. Let's all go to Milton Friedman class after this.
David says, question, isn't some states giving incentives to builders to build affordable housing for families with low income to buy their first home? I think this is the only way they will build these type of homes. Each area is going to have, again, for home builders, they're going to have their own incentives. Like in Hawaii, they have builders, they have incentives for home builders there. You know, they have to, X amount of housing has to go towards affordable housing whenever they build a neighborhood. But again, it's going to be different in every single state and how they address the affordable housing in every single state. But just like these policies that sit out here, right, talked about it earlier, and Jackie and Paul agreed with us on this. All of this means nothing.
Mm-hmm.
It's just words on the paper until our Congress, House, Senate get together and actually agree on something.
Exactly.
And by the time that is even gone onto the floor where people have to say yay or nay, it looks completely different than the words that were originally on the paper that were proposed to the public that supported that particular thing. You know, it never looks like it did. Like you're like, wait a minute, but they said. I'm like, yeah, well, you know, somebody behind a committee wall does this and then writes in this and then X's out this. It doesn't look the same, but they give it a flowery name like affordable housing for all when it really is like, no, that's not how that worked. Nope.
Yeah, I always wonder where that, where the subsidy, where does it come from? So the builders receive a subsidy in order to build a home for a low income, but where does that money come from? Does it come from local? Does it come from the Fed? I mean, if they're receiving that from somewhere, I think that could be, especially if a builder is just taking advantage of that. You know, like you have like a national home builder that would take the most advantage of that because they're already building things cheaply, whereas your local home builder probably can't make the cut still. So you're building stuff that's less quality.
Well, some of the biggest national home builders aren't necessarily like their number one rule isn't necessarily top quality.
I would just rather fix the low income situation, make a better economy where people can make more money and then you can buy it.
That means you're gonna.
I know it's hard. It's the hard way. I know.
No, that's not what I was gonna say. People got to pay people more. You know.
Well, you gotta add value to the marketplace, and you'll make more money.
Proud Level 24 says, have you seen that shocked you about the new laws for buyers agents, i.e. the court case in the NRA? What have you seen that shocked you about the new laws for buyers agents, i.e. the court case? Do you know what I'm going to give you my opinion about and then I'm going to go to Paul, and then we're going to end with Ray because he's ready to go. All right. The biggest shock to me is how confusing it was to the public to understand that really everything's the same. And, you know, all that it is just paper that you have to sign. I think the media made this into a much bigger issue than it needed to be. And I also think that the representation of that we got as real estate agents in this court case was literally dog poop. Okay. Yep. So Paul Lykins, what was the biggest shock to you with the NAR settlement?
Well, one, what you said, how the information that the media is putting out there, talking about how this is going to save buyers a whole lot of money. It's not. Every seller I've spoken to, they're like, no. I mean, if it was costing them $6,000 to sell, right? If it was whatever, just throw some numbers out there, $100,000 house. If they were cost them $6,000, now they're going to save $3,000. Are they going to lower the price of their house to $97,000? No, they're still going to sell it for $100,000. Where's the buyer saving anything? They keep talking about how the buyers are going to save. I don't see that the buyers are going to save much on this. And every news outlet that I saw kept saying that the buyers are going to save, buyers are going to save. And if the buyers have to pay for some of the compensation, since we don't use the other word, I guess, where are they saving there? Again, everything's negotiable, right? But also,
it always was.
It's always been negotiable, and some of the people I've spoken to, which was interesting, was some of the sellers I've actually spoken to said, yeah, listen, this is all crazy. I still want to sell my house, and they're still willing to offer, at least the ones I've spoken to said, yeah, we'll still offer a compensation. Like, I want to get my house sold.
I have yet to have spoken to a seller that said they weren't
Yeah.
going to offer compensation. Jackie, what was the biggest shock for you with the new lawsuit that now is full effect as of the 17th, right?
Yep. As of yesterday.
As of yesterday, full effect.
Well, it's been in effect in Jersey since August 1st. But what shocked me is, like you said, the number, the amount of people that don't understand, they were clueless about this whole thing and how it was going to impact them. And you know what shocked me? The number of real estate agents that weren't on board with it or not on top of this and not understanding it. And I was like, are you kidding me? I've had agents like comment on my videos and like, what do you mean nothing's going to change? I'm like, what do you mean nothing's going to change? So then, so here's a story. So I had my open house 2 weeks ago. Yeah, 2 weeks ago. And there were buyers that walked through the door that were unrepresented. And they said, we're only going to go work with listing agents. We're not hiring buyer agents. These people were on top of it. And okay, that's your right. You know, that's totally fine. You can do that. But now you're going into dual agency. New Jersey, it's legal here. And I just think dual agency presents a whole slew of problems. I mean, let's think about it. This is why we had buyer agents and listing agents. That's why they split it up, because buyers were not getting like fair representation when they were buying a home, going directly to the listing agent. Yeah. So we're going back to that again.
And same in Florida.
So
you call it a transaction broker, and you represent the transaction, which is funny because, you know, I'm not Kristina. I don't represent you. Ray, I don't represent you. I represent the transaction. But Paul, you're my guy. But hey, Paul, I thought your friend was like, I represent the transaction.
I like that term, transaction broker.
My favorite word is ministerial acts. That's my
fancy.
Ministerial acts. Do you have that word? That just means you're doing what Paul does. You're just filling out paperwork.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Manager of the paper.
Yeah.
Yep.
I agree with Jackie with that. There's a lot of people that were just not even paying attention.
Right.
Especially a lot of other realtors that didn't, or
not paying attention at all. Not paying attention at all. Like
how? Are you shocked by that? I mean,
I was a little shocked. I'll be honest with you. I mean, it was all over the news, but forget about the general public, the consumer, the agents, the amount of agents. I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. Where have you been?
Let's see where they are in a year. I mean, if
there you go.
Cleaning of the house, so to say.
Exactly.
Room coming, big sweep. We'll see.
Yep.
But.
Oh yeah.
So Ray, has there been any surprises to you since this went into effect? Do you think anything has changed for you?
Yeah.
I think go ahead.
I mean, there's three main ones. First is the one that Jackie said, how unprepared the agents were. I was shocked by that. I know I shouldn't be, but usually when stuff, hits them right in the pocketbook, they pay attention, but they did not. So I was shocked by that. The second thing is I was shocked by how many brokers didn't understand it. How many people that owned their own brokerage or were a principal broker of a signing company who I responded to their agent. Then their agent had no idea how to respond when I told them, about the commission situation with this listing. And the broker calls me and says, hey, you said this. I don't know what do you mean? And then I have to explain to them that everything just changed. They're like, yeah, I know about all those changes, but I didn't know this is how it was going to be. I'm like, yeah, if you want to get paid, you got to stick it in your offer here. They're trying to brokerages are trying to get me to sign this form between them and me saying how much I would give them for this listing. And we are not signing any additional extra forms. I mean, this is exactly the collusion practice that they're trying to avoid. And so I'm like, no, just put it in the offer, put it in the contract. You want to get paid, put it in the contract. That's the easiest way to secure it in writing where it's transparent for all parties. I'm not going to sign anything that you send me via email. I'll tell you via email what the person's offering if they're offering something, but I'm not doing anything extra. So that was kind of shocking for me. And then the third thing was how many consumers are now livid about this situation. So we have a lot of buyers that are saying, I don't want to sign anything to go see a home. And so we're getting cancellations on some of our showings from agents that haven't appropriately communicated how to manage that situation. And so it's increased the skill level far faster than people can gain the skill, which for me is wonderful because I've gained the skill. We've been doing exclusive agency agreements since 2007. Like this is nothing new for us. We don't go show houses to randoms. That's never been a part of our lead gen strategy. But everyone who has been living that way is going to feel the impact of this decision. And I think one of the biggest impacts are going to be directly to buyers who just wanted to go see a house. And that is a huge portion of the number of inquiries that you get. And so I think like Zillow, Realtor.com, Homes focuses more on the listing, but still they're trying to route buyers to you. Any of those programs that send you a buyer and their instructions have been for years, go show the first house and then talk to them, they are in trouble, and they're in big trouble, because when buyers find out, they call the agent and the agent says, sure, I'll show it to you. Here's a form to sign, and they can't go see it. It's not like agents stop using the lead gen service. They're going to continue to try to use the lead gen service. The leads will dry up because the consumer will say, every time I call, they want me to sign a piece of paper. So I'm just going to call this agent I know and see what the deal is. So it's great for agents that are known in the marketplace. It's horrible for Zillow, Realtor.com, and some of those lead routing websites.
One thing I know for sure, and I've said this since the pickup after the crash last time, this is giving the real estate industry the enema it deserved for quite some time. So it's going to flush out some people, which I'm totally fine with. And the thing is that as new agents come in the market, they're easier to adapt to the new way of this works, and they will thrive because they don't know any other way. They have nothing to complain about. I don't think the public realizes how this is going to affect them in the future. But as more and more people, just like anything, it's a knee-jerk reaction. Everything sounds great because I'm going to get the house for 3% less. That's what they think. But once they get into it and they realize and they start talking to their friends, this too shall change. Things will be adjusted in the future. This is not the end-all be-all when it comes to negotiating compensation between agents and brokers. That's the one thing I know for sure.
Yep.
What do you think, Ray?
Yeah, I mean, I think it is going to be a cleansing. Someone said not enema. I think it is going to be a cleansing. And I don't think it's a bad thing. Someone else said I'd rather pay an attorney $500 to $1,500 to write up an offer. That's fine, but they're not going to go show you houses. And those attorneys that write up those offers, I get sent those offers all the time, and I see ways in which the buyer is not protected that should be, and it's advantageous to my seller. And so I there's a lot that the consumer doesn't know about real estate, and what they don't know, I think, will hurt them in the future until a lot of this gets played out. But at the same time, the professionalism of a real estate agent has never been more on display, and the lack thereof, the opposite side as well. So I think those that are not pros, that don't know how to negotiate to save more than they cost, they're in trouble. I think those lead gen sources are in trouble. So we'll see what happens. It is going to iterate. Like, even our commission said, or the people that draw our forms up, they were like, there will probably be several changes to this before the end of the year. So just hang tight.
Oh, yeah.
Next year this time, we're going to be having a totally different conversation, I guarantee.
I was going to make like a little contract training for my agents. Like, here's this part of the contract, because now the numbers have changed and everything. And I'm just going to wait. I told them, I was like, I'm not going to do anything until 2025 forms come out. Like, we're waiting.
Yeah. Me again, Dave said, Kristina, do you think that printing more money is a problem causing inflation and higher cost? I'm going to say this. I had to do a book report, history report on Ulysses S. Grant. And one of the hugest failings of Ulysses S. Grant was the fact that he printed more money. And I remember that in my brain from eons ago. So every time they print more money, I'm like, did anybody not have to take that same history class in 4th grade about printing more money and how that causes inflation? Of course, printing more money causes
Yes.
inflation. Yeah, of course it does. What do you say, Ray? Did you do that same report in history?
Yeah. I mean, I think that's the basic principle. That's why it was troublesome whenever the COVID thing happened and Trump made the decision to print money. That was not a great decision by my estimation, but no one knew what was happening. We hadn't been in something like that since the Spanish flu. So it was uncharted territory.
When it first started, I'm not going to lie, I thought for sure it's going to be like that movie Contagion. And, everybody's just going to be dropping over about like flies and foam coming out of the mouth. And, like we're going to lose 40% of the population. I really thought we were done for. And I'm just sitting there going, I'm just going to watch all my Netflix shows as I can. I became a Tiger King, whatever that was. I watched it all.
Yeah,
I'm like, we're all going to die anyway. Who cares? I quit my house for a month. I mean, it was like one day I woke up and I'm like, man, my house is disgusting. I only got to snap out of this. I didn't care how much they printed at that time. We're all going to die.
Eventually.
Yeah, well, yeah, it wasn't that from that either. So
what Ray was saying earlier, going back to that, the people talking about like, oh, I'll just get my attorney. How many of us have gotten your customer said, hey, Paul, we want to submit the offer now, and you look at your watch and it's at 8:30 at night. Call your attorney and see if he's going to write anything up and submit it at 8:30 at night. I mean, maybe they do. I don't know, but does he charge you time and a half? And what's an average attorney? I mean, what, $350 for a good one an hour? Are you going to go for the $50 an hour attorney? Okay, well, good luck with that. I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's so much more than just, I mean, and then are you going to call him back up and go, well, we got to renegotiate because the offer wasn't accepted. They want a high price. Now you're getting on the phone again.
Another $350 at least. Yeah.
Yeah. Every time they answer the phone, the clock starts ticking.
And they get paid whether you close or not.
I had a real estate attorney say, I hope they hire me, but they're going to regret that decision.
And if you lose the bid, you still have to pay him.
Yeah. And then go to the next house.
Yeah. I mean, I've written 15 offers for people before, back in the day when it was super crazy. And imagine if I got paid by the hour for every one of those. I don't know. Maybe I will go to an hourly rate.
I have a famous couple that saw 36 homes before they ever actually put in an offer on a house. And the first house they put an offer on, they lost.
Oh my God.
And then it was another 22 after that. So they finally got their house. I love them to that death though. But man, oh man, I earned that commission.
You sure did.
At a loss, but I love them. To this day, I mean, we're still friends. We go to lunch. They're really great people. So at least it was fun. Red Jack says, has anyone explored reducing transaction costs as a way to motivate sellers? Closing costs keep deterring me from selling when I can rent it.
Closing costs on the selling side is pretty cheap.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's not that expensive. Yeah, the closing costs aren't high. There's really nothing on the selling side.
Yeah,
just those pesky real estate agents.
Except for the commission, yeah.
Yeah, the freaking realtors.
I know. We're terrible.
We're horrible. Horrible. Everybody, I know that your time is very precious. We've been going on for an hour and a half. We didn't really talk about all the policies that are on there, but I invite everybody to look at both plans and both policies if you're interested in affordable housing and some of the solutions. These may not be the answers you want to hear, but this is what the two parties have to offer us. Guys, I want to thank you for taking the time out of your day. Hour and a half talking with us about affordable housing is very important to me, and I appreciate it, and I know my audience appreciates it too. Thank you, Ray, Jackie, and Paul there. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks. It's fun and educational.
We went ahead and put the links to everybody's channels in the comment section, but you can find Ray Ellen on This Week in Real Estate. I'm always in the comment section in there. You can go to Jackie Baker's channel. It's just her name, Jackie Baker. And then we got Palm Beach Paul. He's been on YouTube for quite some time. He has some very good and entertaining videos about condos and HOAs. We love us some Paul Lykins. Look at him, Paul.
Thank you, guys.
I love your color pink, Paul. That's looks familiar there.
Awesome.
That's Florida.
If you guys want to listen to this or share this podcast, share this with somebody as a podcast, go and look up my name, Kristina Smallhorn, Real Estate for Everyone, and share it with your friends and family. If you need to go to get a hold of me, just go to KristinaSmallhorn.com. Just click on any of the pink links on my website there, fill out the form and put your phone number, because I can't call you if you don't put your phone number. It makes things very difficult. So I end up emailing you going, hey, that's great. Can I get your phone number? I need your digits so we can have a talk. So thank you, everybody. And thank you for those who kept it respectful. Thank you to the moderators that made sure it stayed respectable. And we're going to go ahead and see you next week. Thank you, everyone. So long.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Hands.
And he's got some music. Patriotic.